Hello, hello there. How are you on this beautiful day? I hope that you are doing well. I am so excited to connect with you. It feels like weeks since I have been able to jump on live and just connect from the heart. Welcome back. If it's been a while since we've connected, I hope you're doing well. This has been one of those exciting periods of time for me. As you may have seen, I recently gave my third TEDx. This time it was in the UK with some really beautiful people. A big shout out to Asha Clearwater Thornton, Taz Thornton, Helena Philipson, Solveig Thorarinsdottir, Gita Winter Graugard. I think in the next couple of weeks, the videos are going to go live from that TEDx. I cannot wait. I left this experience so incredibly inspired, like seriously inspired, which I'm not going to say that that's difficult for me because it's easy for me to get inspired. But there was something about the people who shared that stage with me that day that, I cried, I laughed, I cheered. It was like that. I know I'm emotional all the time, but seeing some of my personal clients and mentees take the stage with such grace and such confidence was amazing, and the new people that I met as well. So how are you doing, my friends? How are you? I'm going to get rid of my tea bag and have a little tea with you. I used to call these live rants a cup of verbal tea. Get it? Verbal tea, herbal tea. Because it was just an opportunity, unscripted, to connect with people in my community. And I miss it. I literally miss it. So anyway, I'm glad to be here with you right this second, sharing this moment. And what I really wanted to explore with you today is what happens when you feel like your life becomes meaningless. And let me just give you some context. There's this phenomenon that happens, and maybe you can relate to this. Have you ever gone after some big goal? Maybe it was running a marathon. Shout out to Sarah Brandis, who's got another marathon coming this week. Maybe it was going after a marathon or climbing a big mountain. Hint, hint, Solveig Thorarinsdottir. Or maybe it was getting some major proposal or getting some major work accomplished, which could have been a book that you got published. It could have been, for me, back in the day, it was performing. Like, we would go through this phenomenon that we would work really hard towards some big goal or achievement. And this is where I want you to chime in. Have you ever experienced this? Where you got to said achievement and then you didn't feel anything. Or you felt a momentary high and then nothing. Anybody? Anybody out there? Am I alone? I know I'm not alone, but I want to say hello to Gerd, Karan, it's beautiful to see you. Björn, Naman, Om Shanti, Dr. Juicy Jill Stalker, good to have you in the house, and Charlotte as well. So have you ever experienced that, where you're going after some big goal or dream and you're working your tail off, you're really focused and motivated, and then you achieve it, you get maybe a little bit of a high, but somehow you're still left feeling like, is that it? Hello, Mona. Have you ever felt that? That you're like, now what? Well, the reason why this is important is after spending months with my VIP team getting ready for this big TEDx, for many people, I don't know, some people that I talked to last week were like, what's a TEDx? They didn't even know what it is. But for some of us who want to be professional speakers or who want to share your message or your methodology for healing, or something that you feel like you want to get out to thousands and maybe millions of people, one really good way to do that is to deliver on TV, if you can, on radio, if you can, or via the TEDx stage. The nice thing about having a video on the internet that's promoted or on a really busy channel like the TED channels is that millions of people can come across your work. So even if you did get on TV or radio, it might get a little bit of flurry of activity on that specific day, but if it's not repeated, it's gone. And so for people who do feel like, gosh, I have this message that I want to share, if only people knew this one idea, their lives would be better. So for some of us, it's a big deal, right? And then there was all this energy going towards this big goal, which was a little nerve-wracking. I'm not speaking for any of my clients or friends or mentees. I'm talking about me. Because this year, I decided to dig deep and face my fear. Now, a lot of people have described me as very bold and courageous, and I am very brave in many respects, having left the United States with a small child and creating a whole new life and business here on the French Riviera where nobody knew me. You could say that was bold or brave, but the biggest fear of mine has really been stepping up and owning the fact that I love to sing. And I'll let you watch the TEDx. It's coming soon, I promise. But I actually went really deep and shared my personal journey from depression and self-hatred to real self-love. And I shared how music has been a huge part of that. So if you tuned in back in February when I cried and lost it and sang live for you guys here, you know what I'm talking about. But music has been really the saving grace in my life in so many ways. And even though I had so many messages telling me, you need to sing, girl, you need to sing, even from within and without, it was this thing that, I don't know, I can get up on stage, I can get on TV and speak. Speaking is not a thing, but singing. So anyway, I decided, thanks to many of the urgings and promptings of people in my beautiful community and tribe, you know who you are, big love to all of you who supported me. But people were like, girl, why don't you sing? Like, sing, for real. So I decided to sing on this TEDx. And that was really bold for me. We had some technical issues getting the sound right and all of this sort of stuff. But I left feeling like, wow, I did it. And all of the fear and that buildup with all the rehearsal, after getting it done, I felt a momentary little hit of relief and pride, like I did it, I survived, I didn't die, my voice didn't crack. Well, it did a little bit. But I left feeling like, okay, I did it. And guess what? My mind went there to, now what? And this is what so many people have told me they've experienced after getting some major promotion where they got a title in the company, or they got a ton of money, or they accomplished something big by getting a book done or whatever. And then they felt that sense of letdown of, well, what is this all worth? Like stepping off of that big mountain that we may have thought was going to deliver such bliss. Of course, anybody on the spiritual path knows that nothing in this physical plane is going to give you lasting bliss. I'm sorry. It's not the chocolate. It's not the booze. It's not the man, woman, sex, red bottom shoes. None of that is going to give you lasting bliss. That doesn't come from anything in the material world. It comes from connecting with, Anyway, so I say all of that to say, even though we may know that intellectually or spiritually, you do sometimes run into it. And the first time that I really noticed that it had a measurable impact on emotional health and physical health was in my career as a medical doctor. So many of you may already know this, but there have been so many studies out there that have shown that when people retire, their risk of mortality, meaning their risk of death, increases significantly. And so some people used to think, oh, well, it's just because they got old. But that's not true. We found that, I remember just even in my medical training, and gosh, that's been 20 years, but just in 2016, there was a great study that was published in, what was it published in? The Journal of Epidemiology. There was a study showing that people who experienced a lack of purpose in life, they found that life was just meaningless, they had an increased risk of dying. And so one of the things that we saw in the medical world was it was correlated with somebody either retiring or having a spouse die. And people call it dying of a broken heart, that when a spouse died, these elderly people would die within hours, days, or weeks later, and they called it dying of a broken heart. But in Japan, decades ago, they realized that when people were retired, either forcibly because of the way the laws work in companies, or whatever, or electively. Like some people used to think, when I'm 55 or when I'm 65, I'm going to retire and sit on a rocking chair on the porch or go play golf. They noticed that when people retired, their risk of death from heart disease, from cancer, from strokes, and their risk of depression went dramatically higher. And when they started to tear apart the data to see, well, okay, is it just because they were old? No, it was this lack of feeling a purpose in life. And in Japan, they call that ikigai. So give me a thumbs up or hearts or something if you've ever heard of this term, ikigai. So ikigai is what the Japanese translate as purpose in life or meaning in life. In other words, what we've now been able to extrapolate medically is that if we don't feel a sense of purpose, that we're moving towards something meaningful, then it actually affects our metabolism and our gene expression. Does that surprise anyone, or is this all old hat to you? It literally ties to our immune system, meaning that when you don't feel like you have a purpose in life, your immune system is just yeah, whatever. And so people get sick more often. So what's interesting is that looking at what happens to creators, we mobilize all of our energy to get some big project done. And then once we get that little high, many of us will crash. I know as an actor in my early days, I noticed this dramatically and profoundly among the people in the cast of plays and musicals that I did. We all had this feeling of, oh, it's over. And it's the sense that all the work we've put in towards creating this production and the camaraderie and all of that, suddenly it's gone. And so you'd have this little dip until the next thing came along. But what happens when you're an adult and you don't have the next movie or play or show to look forward to? Or what happens when you do lose a job or you lose a loved one? So I wanted to just tease this out for our viewing audience because I had the opportunity to reconnect with my sense of purpose. And this has been hugely important to me. So I want to just acknowledge some of the questions and comments. So my friend Karan back in the United States says, I find myself at, is that it? Far too often. Yeah, so that's not where we want to be, right? We don't want to be in that, is this all there is? And you wonder if you're aiming too high or not at all. If I'm aiming high enough or at all. Yeah, that's a good one, Karan. I do feel like when we don't have some inspiring purpose or thing that we're moving toward, whether that's self-expression or a project or something in the family, then we can feel that sense of, why am I here? Is this just daily grind for the sake of keeping things going? Where is the juice of life? And Karan says that you believe that about retirement. She retired at age 40, and these have been the most difficult times of your life. So it's not just, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And she says it's a kind of grief. And that is what happens. There is this sense of, wow, I've gone from being very useful, very purposeful, having connections and all of that to, so who am I now? What am I now? And so I think it ties to these two things. It's one about identity of who are we? Who am I without that title or that job? And it also ties to, what am I living for? Am I living just for a paycheck, living just day to day to go through the daily grind? Yeah, so, and Dr. Juicy Jill says, I remember graduating from medical school, which was your ultimate dream in life, to become a doctor, and felt nothing. Yeah, so it can definitely happen. And Jill says, you found more blissful feelings from self-expression activities and with people aligned with their purpose, passion, and power. Yes, I'm with you on that, Jill, which is obviously a lot of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing with publishing books. It's always been part of my dharma or my reason for being. I feel like as a visionary, as you know, I see other people's potential and what their ideas are. And once I'm like hooked into a vision, it's like I can see how it would manifest, what the potential pitfalls are, things to watch out for. I can see the qualities within another person and what would bring it alive. And so it's been fun as I built this consulting business and as a coach and a mentor to help other people like live their dreams. And that gives me this sense of purpose. So I also feel like we're all in this together. And so even if we are just supporting other people, that is part of our life purpose at that particular moment. And I feel like it's something that we need to acknowledge. We have so much power within us. And yet, if we aren't in a supportive environment, in that rich soil, so many people are talking about epigenetics and the effects that our environment have on our gene expression. So literally, your DNA is impacted by your environment. And I'm not just talking like environmental toxins, like the smoke in the air. We're talking about everything that you see in your environment, from whether it's beautiful or is it trashy? Is it full of smoke or clean air? Are you around people who are smiling and happy? All of that impacts your physical well-being. And so I felt like having this opportunity to like connect with people who are also really driven by a heart of compassion to see other people thriving has been a huge boost for me, because then I realize I'm not alone. Like none of us is ever alone, even though we feel like it. And Quran says, you were a high functioning, high achiever, addicted to the high of it. Yeah, I know how that feels. But as with any addiction, what goes up must come down. And we eventually get to that point where we realize, what's the high and was it worth it? So I'm curious to know, yes, I love that. Quran says now it's about reevaluating achievement versus fulfillment. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I'm glad you brought that up, Quran. I was just talking with this beautiful and dynamic leadership consultant and coach from Sweden. And she has this really brilliant framework. It's like create a life of health, empowerment, and fulfillment. And her name is Malin Hedlund. And so Malin was recently here with us in Cannes in the south of France, and we got together as well over Skype. And I wanted to unpack this word fulfillment, because with achievement, we're usually going for some external reward or goal. We're like going after something so that we can then mark it down on our CV or put a little check mark by our name or add some letters after our name. But that sort of outward achievement for many people, and believe me, I've seen them in Hollywood and here in Monte Carlo, from the rich, famous celebrities to the rich billionaires, they get to this point where they realize that all of this outward achievement is not actually fulfilling. Now, sometimes it is. If it's definitely tied to your soul or your life purpose, your dharma, the reason you're on the planet, it can be. But if we were really honest with ourselves and looked at our life to say, of all the activities that fill my days and all the people I allow myself to spend time with, how much of it brings me deep fulfillment? How much of this am I actually living with a sense of purpose and not just passing the time? It's a question for you to ponder. So our friend in India, Naman, says he's 19 and he has a number of goals to accomplish. Many of them are materialistic. So what could be the spiritual goal at this young age? Because I really want to set some. I'm planning to make it as a commitment to myself in the world and with God. I love that, Naman. Thank you for that question. So this is really the heart of where I am today. I believe that we can align our work, including the very materialistic side. I am not recommending, I don't think I've recommended it to anyone in the last 12 years. I'm not recommending that you sell all of your possessions and go live in a cave and just meditate all day. Now, I do know that that could be incredibly beneficial for oneself and for the rest of the world. Meditating, praying, following a spiritual path can actually impact millions of people, even if you didn't become like some sort of a spiritual teacher. But I also know that if you are on a path where you have material needs to pay for school or pay for rent or take care of your children, then there is nothing wrong with you pursuing things for their material benefits. We see this a lot with our light workers. I'm on a mission to help light workers become millionaires, spiritual millionaires. And that means, can you get to a point where you know and you acknowledge that in this lifetime, you have some gifts and talents. You have certain qualities that are unique to you. I'm not saying that there may not be other people who have similar qualities. It's just like I'm always bringing up the comparison or the comparison between me and Dr. Juicy Jill. Like, we both got certified in age management medicine, but we both have very different energy and very different personalities and a very different focus. So looking at the talents, the qualities, the personal attributes that you have, if you were committed to your soul going through this life for whatever that purpose is, for some of us, we believe the soul is on a path towards enlightenment, which is, it doesn't even have to be tied to religion. It's like getting to that purity of who you really are as a spiritual being and being able to be free of all of the egoic suffering, is recognizing this oneness. Anyway, if you were able to say, I want my life to have some meaning and purpose that is beyond the material and that is actually helping me to evolve and becoming the highest and best version of myself, those don't have to be totally separate. You can still engage in business for good. And one of my dear friends, Sister Dr. Jenna, from the meditation museums of the Brahma Kumaris in America, she talks about this a lot. We are given gifts and talents. We are given these abilities to come up with businesses and films and things that can do good in the world, and we should be paid in some sort of way, shape, or form for our contribution. So there's nothing wrong with that. But the question, it comes down to intention. If your intention is to use your life for the best possible good, for your evolution, to leave a positive imprint in the world, not a negative one, and you've decided, I'm going to turn away from being snotty, from being competitive, from being judgmental, I want to be the best me, then anything you do, whether you're a student, whether you're a cashier operator, or you're a surgeon, whatever you do from that intention to be of service, to be a positive force in the world, that counts. And yes, if you are not a monk who's going out with your begging bowl, it is perfectly acceptable and perfectly logical for you to receive money for the service and the value that you deliver to the world. And so this has been an interesting journey for a lot of people in our community, because they felt like, well, I'm spiritual now, or I have this gift and I didn't work for it, meaning they feel like this gift was like from God. They have these talents that they're like, this is just, it comes so naturally. It must be a gift from God. Who am I to start asking people for money? But at the same time, if you're broke, if you're poor, if you can't afford the things that you need to keep your life moving forward, then how are you going to impact as many people as you can? Now, again, it comes down to intention. And definitely, I've seen people on the extremes, people who are all about the money and the fame and the ego, and their intention got lost. It's a big part of why I don't work with large numbers of people anymore. I work with a very small group of people, because we're really working on two aspects. On that personal alignment, to feel like we're really grounded and connected with our soul and our purpose in life, as well as polishing up our skills on the professional level, so that with everything we do, we're doing it with excellence, but always with that intention from the heart and soul to serve. So I hope that was helpful, and I hope I didn't go off on too long a tangent. But I'm really sensitive to this, because while I was last weekend up at the meditation center, just an hour from my house, there is this beautiful mountain retreat that I go to, and we were doing this beautiful retreat, and I connected with this lovely woman who was talking to me about my business, and I said, you know what? At this moment in my life, I mean, I'm not a spring chicken. I've been around long enough. I happen to be at a point where I can choose to align my work with what I believe is my spiritual path. Hello, Carol, she says, have a great day. I'm out of here to go live my purpose. Much love to you, one of our authors from Time to Rise. So part of my spiritual purpose, like I truly deeply feel that I'm on this planet to add more light and love and vitality. I want people to reconnect with the ability to heal and to thrive and to enjoy their lives. I think what attracted me to becoming a doctor was watching my mother and how she was able to work with people to improve their health and improve their relationships. I was attracted to science basically from my dad always telling me to ask, why do things work? So I have this nerdy love of understanding how things work. And so that just suits me perfectly. But being able to now take that knowledge and then get it out to the masses. Because one of the things that I think bothered me being a doctor is I could see, 20 people in a day at my wellness center and help them. And then when I leave, there are 200 or 2,000 or 200,000 more out there who have the same problems, and I'm never going to be able to physically treat that many people. Yet, with my work in television, the first time I was on the Oprah Winfrey show, we had over 40 million people watching this broadcast because the singer, Luther Vandross, at that time had just suffered a stroke. And Oprah had had him on before about weight loss and his diabetes. And so it was a big deal for us, especially in the African American community, because there was just the beginning of people really talking about out loud how people of color were dying at higher rates from things like heart disease and diabetes. And these are totally manageable conditions and preventable conditions. And so being on that show where millions of people were getting this information in one big dose, of course, it was Oprah, so it was very well produced. We were on there with Patti LaBelle, who also had diabetes. So what I saw was my work in television had this incredible impact. And even though I wasn't with people for months teaching them all about, their blood sugar and how to eat, well, they did fly me in to do another show just a few weeks later where we did specifically look at nutrition and how our meal plans can prevent diabetes or manage diabetes and heart disease. But what I'm saying is, in one broadcast, we created enough transformation or inspired people to transform the way they looked at their own health, the way they interacted with their doctors, that I was then impacting millions of people in one swoop. And so this idea of leveraging the media, which is a love of mine. I grew up in acting and singing and performing. I love communication. I love the use of words and sound to bring healing. So bringing that together for me has been, a gift. And now that I am able to really tie into the compassionate side of me as a healer, where it used to really bug me to see so much suffering. But now I understand that when I see suffering in the world, when I'm really tuned into that suffering, I can actually do something about it. And it doesn't mean I have to see each and every person in my medical clinic. Through the power of sound, through the power of vibration, through the power of intention, through, sharing physical things like all of these books and podcasts and all of that, we can make a difference. So it's been a journey for me to get to the point where, yes, I run a for-profit company. I also run a not-for-profit, the Real Self-Love Movement. And these things generate revenue. And by earning money, I was thinking about this today. I got a message from someone saying, can you give me a review on the work I did? And I'm like, gosh, I so value this person's contribution. And it just hit me. It's like, wow, by me paying this person, not only is it helping them to pay their bills, but now our relationship, I can give them a great recommendation so they get even more work. And it circles around. Like, none of this is just about material gain without tying into that compassionate circle. Is this making sense, or am I just running my mouth? Okay. You see how this goes, guys. When I haven't connected in a long time with you, I just end up going. But anyway, hello, Lena, one of our authors from Time to Rise. Good to see you. I hope that this is making sense. So I would love to hear from you about where you are in all of this. Do you feel like you can tie into some sense of purpose? What is your sense of purpose? What is your ikigai? What is the reason that you get up in the morning? What is the reason that you endure sometimes the not great conditions that sometimes we're in at work, Sometimes we have a job that's just repetitive and boring. And yet, if you could really tie into what is my purpose? What is my true purpose in this life? It's not always tied to some big job title or fancy work. It could just be the energy and the vibration. So I have one more question for you. And hi, Cynthia. I'm so glad you're enjoying listening. So here's a question for you. Have you ever been to a restaurant or a coffee shop, and the person who delivers you your drink or your order has added so much flair, or has greeted you with such a warm smile, or has in some way created this experience where they didn't have to? It's not like it's the company culture that you have to do it, but they just added this little something extra. Like, some people might judge, oh, you're a cashier or you're a waitress. No, that's whatever. But the experience, have you ever had someone who created this experience where you left just feeling a little lighter, or you left just feeling really cared for? Like, wow, they put that little extra attention to detail. And then when you leave, you're leaving with that energy and you're able to transmit it. I've had this happen for me because I travel to so many countries. When I go somewhere, and I am a picky vegan, we travel with people who've got, dietary constrictions and restrictions. And so when someone is like kind and makes that whole food process peaceful, I just leave feeling better. Okay, just to put it really plainly. And then that makes my entire rest of my journey better. And so something as small as that, that energy, that intention, that love, it gets transmitted. And because we're all connected through this matrix of energy and information that we share and we transmit, it doesn't matter what your job is. If your intention and your attention is in this positive realm of being of service, of giving love and kindness, then that can be part of your reason for living. That can be a sense of fulfillment that comes back to you. Um, I love it. And Bjorg says, yes, a barista making a heart in the cappuccino, telling you that it was made with love. I love that. I love that. Because you do feel like, wow, this person who doesn't know me has taken this little extra moment to give me that little extra detail. So anyway, I'm grateful that you all were able to tune in and connect with me today. I am super excited to be back in France for another almost 2 weeks, and then I'm heading to Spain for the European Transformational Teachers Gathering, where some of our dear friends will be there. I'm so looking forward to that. If you are curious about what it takes to bring your message out to the global marketplace, I'm running a free masterclass next week. I had so many people asking me like, ooh, I see you with your clients. How can I do that? Would you mentor me? I want to get a TED Talk, or I want to do this, or I have a few spots opening up in my Global Luminary Academy soon. That will be coming soon. So if you're interested, hit me up. I'll share information of how you can work with me. But if you want to join me for this masterclass, yes, Lena, I will see you in Spain. Next Wednesday, we will be doing this global masterclass on what does it take to go global. If you're curious, what does it take for you to get on major stages or TV shows in multiple countries? Or how do you leave the country you're in and start having a presence where your books and your appearances are gaining traction in multiple countries? This is my area of expertise. So at 7 o'clock Paris time, that's 6 o'clock in London, or 1 in the afternoon for New Yorkers, 10 a.m. for my LA peeps. Naman, for you over in India, that would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 3 hours from now. Next Wednesday, I will be just answering your questions and giving you an overview of what it really takes to become what I call a global luminary, someone who is out there in the world shining and sharing from the heart. Totally free, so just visit this Go to Global MC bit.ly link, and you can sign up for this masterclass. And I'll answer your questions. Then you can ask specific details about what you may want to do or need. And if you have a story to share of how you have manifested love, I'm doing a book, a group book on manifesting love, which is real life stories of conscious relationships that were co-created with the universe. We are still accepting story submissions for that book. And that book is going to come out this October. We're inviting the authors, including those of you from Life After Trauma, Magic and Miracles, and Time to Rise. We're inviting people to come to our book launch party in the south of France this October. If you happen to have a story about resilience, about how you have been able to bounce back after trauma or drama in your life, we're also doing a book called The Top 10 Traits of Highly Resilient People. And you can just visit my website, makeyourmarkglobal.com, and you'll see the links where you can learn more about each of these different books and how the programs work. These are author-funded programs where each author pays a little bit of the fee for getting the book published, but they're also getting a whole lot of training and mentoring by me. So if you're curious about what it would take to work with me personally on developing your writing or your speaking, then you have all these different ways of connecting. I would love to see you there. So we have so many of our beautiful authors who I've seen your names and faces today, from Gerd, who's up in Norway, who will be in our Resilience book, Dr. Juicy Jill Stalker, who's in Time to Rise, and Life After Trauma. We have Mona Winbrandt, who's also going to be in our book, Cynthia Harrison. Who else is on with us today? Dun, 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 dun. We had Carol Fisher-Taylor in Canada, Lena Kirk as well. So what's cool for me is being able to work with a mastermind of people who are able to connect and start sharing in multiple countries, multiple languages. That's also part of my specialty. It's really giving people the opportunity to branch out, because we're all one big family, you know? We are all one big family here to spread more love and light. So I would love to see you next Wednesday for the global How to Go Global Masterclass. Just click on that link. I will be sure to put it in the description as well. So if you have questions, you got me, all right? So I am sending you so much love and positive vibes from here. And there's Elspeth. Hi, Elspeth. That's another big project coming soon. We have a card deck. Elspeth and her dear friend Sarah have created a deck of cards, joy cards, and each one has these beautiful photographs from Sarah Strong and Elspeth's beautiful words, just infused with so much love and positivity. So I can't wait to share that with you. That is coming soon. So many beautiful projects that I'm just so blessed to be able to work on to bring more light and love to the world. That is what it's all about. So my friends, I will see you next time. Please stay tuned. Make sure that you're subscribed to various channels. Click that notification thing so that you find out when I'm live and when I release new videos. I have some new interviews coming up in the next few days. It's just a full life. What can I say? But I'm sending you so much love from the sunny south of France, and I will see you again soon. Bye.